Hi, guys. So, for today's lesson, we are going to listen to another fairy tale. Remember, fairy tales, they can happen in magical places. They might have a lot to do with castles, kings, queens, princesses, ogres, things that are magical. Okay? So, with fairy tales, a lot of times they might start with once upon a time and things like that. Well, today's fairy tale is called The Princess and the Pea. So, we're going to read about how a queen gets the information she needs. Remember, we've been talking about that this unit, about how do we get information that we need. So, we're going to go ahead and listen to this story now.
The Princess and the Pea by Hans Christian Andersen. Retold by Jinian. There was once a prince, a lonely prince. He traveled around the world to find someone like himself, a proper princess to share his life. But this he knew, she must be a real princess. In his travels, he found many princesses. Each claimed to be a real princess. Each had the proper pedigree and credentials, but there always seemed to be something wrong. At last, the prince returned home in despair. He wanted a princess so badly, and he now feared that his expectations might never be met. The old king and queen welcomed him home. Another summer passed, and the leaves were falling from the trees when, one evening, a terrible storm blew in from the sea. As the prince sat by the fire reading, lightning drew closer and closer, and thunder rattled the windows until it seemed sure they'd break. Hours into the night, the storm raged. At midnight, a calm fell as suddenly as the storm itself had arrived. An eerie knock was heard at the town gate. It was a gentle but insistent knock. The townspeople and courtiers rubbed their eyes and wondered who could have been out in such a storm. The old king himself sent his advisor to the town gate. There stood a princess, but she was in a terrible state. Rain poured from her hair and her clothes. It overflowed her shoes and ran out the heels. She claimed she was a princess, and the advisor all but laughed out loud. Still, she swore she was a real princess. "We'll see soon enough if that is true," whispered the old queen softly to herself, being careful not to reveal her plan. The princess was given a warm dinner and some dry clothes while the old queen set off to prepare a sleeping chamber for the princess. First, she stripped all the bedclothes. Then she placed a single pea in the center of the bedstead. Next, she called for 20 mattresses and piled them one on top of the other on the pea. Finally, 20 feather beds were added on top of the mattresses. The princess's sleeping arrangements were made. In the morning, the old king and queen met the princess when she arose. If possible, she looked worse than when she had arrived. They asked how she had slept. "Oh, terribly!" exclaimed the princess. "I scarcely closed my eyes all night. Who knows what was in that bed? It seemed as if I were lying upon some hard pebble. My whole body is black and blue this morning. It is truly terrible." And the princess started crying. The old queen saw at once that she must be a real princess. Only a real princess could have felt the pea through 20 mattresses and 20 feather beds. So the prince asked her to be his wife, sure that he had found a real princess. The prince once again traveled the world, this time with the princess, and they were happy. And the pea? It was put into a museum, where it may still be found, if no one has stolen it. Now this is a true story. Make connections. Talk about how the old queen gets the information she needs about the princess. How are the old queen's actions different from the way another fairy tale character gets information? How does a plan help each character?
So now what I would like you to do is you are going to head to Seesaw and you are going to see some questions about this story. Please answer in complete sentences and make sure you click the green check to submit.